Welcome to Postcards to the Universe with Melisa Caprio. Do you believe in magic? What if you were told that all you had to do was get a little creative and work a magic spell to bring anything you can imagine into your life? Here on Postcards to the Universe, we will share manifesting, tips, postcards, creativity, abundance, and prosperity. Here is your host, Melisa Caprio.
Hello and welcome to Postcards to the Universe with Melisa, creating the life you crave. How's everybody doing? Happy holiday season. It's such a great time of the year, but as we were just talking about before we got on the show, it could be a little stressful also. So if you're feeling the stress, I totally understand. Let's all take a deep breath, because even though it is a great time, it can be really, really stressful. So I'm really excited when I have this guest on, Reverend Gregory Possman, because he's a returning guest. And for those of you who listen to me on a regular basis, we love when Gregory's on. And he is going to be channeling, of course, after the first break, as he always does so well. And today he's live channeling Vywamus, guardian of the earth, and how ghosts and spirits affect the earth plane. And we're calling it Ghosts of Christmas Past. So that'll be really interesting to see what Vywamus has to say when he joins us. For those of you who are new, tuning into my show for the first time, I'm also an author and a photographer, and my book is titled Postcards to the Universe, Harness the Universe's Power and Manifest Your Dreams. And in my book, there are 30 manifesting stories along with the photographs that I took of the contributors manifesting postcards and how their manifestation became the reality. And I include a whole bunch of writing exercises to help you get clear on what you want to manifest, and a toolbox full of fun exercises on how to manifest love, money, health, career, and much more. And, it is the holiday times right now. So, of course, here I am promoting myself, but it's a great gift, especially since the New Year's coming up. So if you're interested, you can find me on any of the online bookstores, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, your favorite. And I have tons of fun exercises and fun games actually in the book. So please, go check it out. Each week I share a Magic Monday message, and it's an image of a manifesting postcard that I photographed with an affirmation. And I like to try to focus on that affirmation for about a week, and I tap into the energy of that affirmation and, keep repeating it to myself to increase its power to become a new belief that I incorporate into my life, and it helps shift our energy. And this week's magic message is, it's time to celebrate. This time of year is a time of celebration. And I read this about celebration by Anne Sanfilippo, and I thought how this sums it up perfectly. Celebration involves presence, it involves gratitude, and it involves pausing your push forward for long enough to look around and say, wow, look at this amazing reality I've already created. The universe is attuned to and responds to our personal vibrations. And when we take the time to celebrate our accomplishments and acknowledge each achievement, whether they are large or small, in the process of our reality creation, we send out a vibration of gratitude. You guys hear me talk about gratitude all the time. And essentially our gratitude tells the universe, I want more of this, please. And when we take the time to celebrate, it's like saying thank you to a friend who got you the gift for what you've been yearning for. You wouldn't snatch such a present out of your friend's hands, set it aside and ask, what's next? That would not only be rude, it would tell your friend in no uncertain terms that her gift wasn't good enough to merit your full gratitude and attention. So if you wouldn't treat a friend that way, why would you do it to the universe? Just because you asked for your current reality and created it with your desire, vision, action, and accountability, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be grateful for it. Just like the friend who gave you the treasured gift, the universe has conspired to create your reality according to what you've been asking for. When you extend the same gratitude to the universe as you do your friends or your loved ones, you will cultivate a constant vibration of appreciation and love, and this will raise your overall vibration and bring you closer to the vision you hold for your ideal life. There's another side to this, too, the side of what happens inside us when we celebrate our own success. Even if we've already been treating the universe as a friend, how about the way we treat ourselves? When we breeze past our own accomplishments without acknowledging them, we are essentially saying, what I've created is not big enough, grand enough, or just plain enough to merit my full attention and gratitude. We give ourselves the cold shoulder that we would never give to our friends. This creates an overall vibration of never enough, which, as we know, will prompt our amazingly sensitive universe to give us exactly what we're broadcasting, never enough. When we don't stop to celebrate, we can lose track of why we're working so hard in the first place. We can get so caught up in the work of creating our lives that the creation itself becomes secondary. But if we don't pause to enjoy the fruits of our labor, we will soon become burned out and disillusioned. The creations we work so hard to manifest will start to feel like burdens instead, and our optimism will nosedive into bitterness. However, if we take the time to enjoy the journey, the rest stops, celebrations, and feelings of gratitude along the way, we will stay attuned to the essence of our vision for a wealthy, healthy, happy life. This is why celebration is every bit as vital to the process of creating your life as you desire, vision, actions, and accountability. When you celebrate your manifesting wins, you are literally tuning yourself into the universal channel of yes, thank you, I'll have more of that. And that was by Anne Sanfilippo, and I couldn't have said it better myself, so that's why I said it here to you guys. I just thought it was perfect in the spirit of celebration. To see the images of my magic messages with the affirmations, you can go to my website or any of my social media platforms, and I post them each week. And also join my Facebook group, Postcards of Love, where we share inspirational images and stories. Also make a manifesting postcard. It's the end of the year. What do you want to bring into your life coming up in the new year? Think about it and make a card and send it to me. I can help you if you need help. Just reach out to me anytime. Next week, I have a young musician, Leah Kate, who is a manifesting go-getter. At 14 years old, she would email huge producers of major labels of artists she loved, getting them to produce her voice memos that she would freestyle. Her songs range in a variety of versatile topics, but the one thing they all have in common is that they are reflective of her life. And it's going to be a great show talking to someone so young and focused, already working the law of attraction and abundance in her life. All right, to get to my guest today, I'm so excited. Reverend Gregory Possman is a psychic trance channel, and he channels over 40 light beings, including Sananda, Archangels, Master Teacher Spirit Quan Yin, Mary, the Council of Shambhala, and others, and he also channels the Pleiadians, Siriuns, and Venusians, and he performs workshops throughout the world and offers recorded, channeled private sessions by phone. Today's episode, Gregory is going to be channeling Vywamus, guardian of the earth, and how ghosts and spirits affect the earth plane. And each month you can get a free channeled message if you sign up for his newsletter on Gregory, Gregory, Possman, Possman.com. So we're going to be talking about the ghosts of Christmas past. Welcome, Gregory. How are you? That was a lot. I had a lot to say today.
I enjoyed listening to it, and I was focused on our conversation before we began, and I was thinking about how important celebration is. And I'm reading a book called Tiny Habits. The author I can't remember, but he talks about celebration, and he calls it shining. And he talks about celebrating all the little tiny habits that you begin to create and break and so forth, those that you don't want to continue. And so it was excellent to listen to it. I've been very focused on all the things that I have to do and how much my to-do list is growing, and instead of on how much I've accomplished. And it was perfect to hear. So I'm grateful. I enjoyed it.
Oh, good. Yeah. I'm like you, like we said before we got on, I'm juggling so many things, and, and I feel like my to-do list has gotten so much longer. I'm forgetting to do stuff. And as I was writing about celebration and I was online, that article just there's no coincidences, right? It just somehow got my attention. I don't know, somebody posted something and it got my attention and I clicked on it and then I read it and I said, oh, she's saying it so perfect. So thank you. She's saying it better than I could say it. Thank you, Anne. Yeah,
Well
so
done.
it was just so wonderful. Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about ghosts and spirits that roam the earth, and we'll connect to Vywamus when we come back from after our first break. But you, in your body as Gregory, have experience with ghosts and spirits, right? Why don't you share a little bit about that? It's cool.
Well, when I began this process, and I was 38, I think is the age, I was told by those on the other side that not only could I help the people that were alive, but I could help people that weren't. And that was a bit confusing. And I said, what do you mean? And they said, well, spirits and entities that are roaming the planet, so to speak, but not in the physical, can need help. And over the years, we've come to realize that they are not necessarily trapped here. They remain here voluntarily for a number of reasons, and Vywamus will get into that. But the bottom line is I can feel them. I don't see them. And that's why I was so fascinated by the movies Ghostbusters, because you could see all the ghosts, and that was fun. But that was also slightly disrespectful. And
Sure.
I love that movie, so I'm not criticizing the movie. I just realized now that what happens with a lot of these programs on television, I don't watch them, but occasionally I watch or talk to people who are watching them. And what I've come to realize is there's a kind of, what's the word? They're making these things very dramatic, and they're not necessarily respecting the needs of the entities that are there. The main thing in a lot of these programs is to get them on film, hear the noises they make, watching them move furniture or whatever they do, instead of the main focus, which in my mind is, how do we get them where they need to be? How do they get to the other side? How do they go into the light? Why are they still here? In other words, that's the question in my mind. And I think there are, again, I'm not familiar with them, but my sister is a medium, and she tells me that there now are some of the programs that are showing a bit more respect for these entities, instead of just trying to get them on film and electronically and all that. They do have a place to be, and it's not here on the earth. So when we talked about this program, and I love Dickens' Christmas Carol, I love the story, and I actually read the whole thing, and it's fascinating because when you watch the movie, it's actually a conglomeration of a bunch of the stories by Dickens. And so it's very interesting how that's been changed around, so to speak. But getting back to the ghosts and the spirits, there's a kind of feeling, and it comes on at some of the most interesting times. And I'm reminded of having dinner in Denmark. I travel over there to work, and we're eating dinner at this beautiful restaurant down by the waterfront on a canal. And all of a sudden, I get this feeling, and I take one of my friends and clients outside, and I say, we got to have a conversation because this entity wants to cross over. And then I channel the entity. It takes all of about 3 or 4 minutes, but it wasn't necessarily the most timely kind of interruption. And the same thing had happened when I was attending a wedding over there, and we were in the church, and there were 2 spirits of monks that were up in the balcony, and they were sort of chit-chatting, and I could feel their energy. But in the middle of a wedding, you don't run upstairs and do a ghost clearing. So it's...
No. I mean, tell everybody what your sister and you do this together. What do you mean by a ghost clearing? How you help the spirits, entities cross to the other side, correct?
That's correct. My sister's son, her only son, died when he was 24. And basically his spirit is on the other side, and he communicates with her frequently. And So the way this works is she oftentimes gets information about situations, and a lot of times it has to do with people that have died in the ocean, 911 kinds of situations where a person passes away, and she gets the information basically through her son, although now she's getting it more directly. And so when these entities find out or realize that she and I have the ability to cross them over, they start talking to us, if you will. And then we get in touch with one another and we start comparing notes and information. And then typically what happens is I channel the spirit or the entity. She listens to the conversation, has a conversation with it, and then explains to it that it can cross over. She talks to it through me, so to speak. And so those conversations are they're short. They don't take very long. It's a very efficient process. It's so efficient, it's amazing to me.
Wow.
Working by myself, I can do the same thing, but it's not nearly as fast as it is when I'm working with her. So that's the kind of work we do. And when people contact us and tell us that they have a spirit in a building or whatever, then the two of us get together. Now we do the work remotely. We don't have to go there or anything like that.
And you even go to sacred lands, don't you, and help clear like an area of land that has a lot of trauma, a lot of spirits that are left behind?
Absolutely. We've done a lot of Native American I don't know what the right word is, but again, these are places where there have been historical issues and challenges, and we go there and we do clear quite a few souls at a time. So that's been really fascinating as well.
That is fascinating. All right. Well, we're here at the first part, our first break. So let's take it now. And then when we come back, we're going to, channel. Well, we are. Like, I'm going to do it too. You are going to channel Vywamus. And
You're part of the process.
I am. It's exciting. All right, guys. Stay tuned. Listen to some amazing channeling when we return. Be back in just 2 minutes.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes. Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Hi, I'm Melisa Caprio from Postcards to the Universe, creating the life you crave. Do you believe in magic? What if I told you all you had to do was get a little creative and work a dream spell to bring anything you can imagine into your life? Well, guess what? I've got the spell for you. Postcards to the Universe, a global movement for manifestation, is a casting magical tool for you to use whenever you want. How does living in passion sound to you? Join me in my movement where you get to create in the magical playground. Let's think outside the box and do some playful conjuring. By casting out our desires with a manifesting postcard, we explore our hearts and allow the alchemy of our dreams to appear. And don't forget to tune in each week here on OMTimes Radio with my show, Postcards to the Universe, creating the life you crave at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I share tips on creativity, abundance, and prosperity, and you will be introduced to the coolest guests, trailblazers, mystics, and creatives who enrich our lives.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
The rainbow is God's promise of hope for you and me. And though the clouds hang heavy and the sun we cannot see, we know above the dark clouds that fill the stormy sky, hope's rainbow will come shining through when the clouds have drifted by. Teresa Caprio is the president and founder of Rainbow Guardian Inc., a nonprofit 501c3 serving the intellectually challenged/developmentally disabled, including autism. Teresa started the foundation in 1995 so she could help make a better life for her intellectually challenged daughter. Her dream is that the Rainbow Guardian will provide the necessary tools and education to help the public understand the special needs population, because it's often discarded in mainstream society. To find out more or make a donation in support, please go to www.rainbowguardian.org. Rainbow Guardian's special mission is to see these unique people live a happy, full life and have a future of liberty and equality.
Welcome back. So if you're just joining me today, I have Reverend Gregory Possman on, who is a Physic Trance Channel, and he's a regular on my show and channels when he's here. And today he's going to be channeling Vywamus, Guardian of the Earth, and how ghosts and spirits affect the Earth plane. So we're theming it Ghost of Christmas Past. But before, Gregory, we do that, I just have to say that. So today, for those of you who are my friends and listen to me and know my stories, there's a thing with lizards and me. So there's been an iguana that has been scratching on my door all day, and I keep chasing him away, and he was just on my window, and I'm seeing his shadow reflection on my window. He's holding onto my screen, and I was taking pictures of it. It's crazy. So I just had to share that. Iguanas and lizards, right? I don't know what that's about.
It's all perfect. Who knows?
Who knows? Maybe I'll have to ask Vywamus. Okay, no. All right. So is there anything that you want to share, Gregory, about ghosts and spirits? Well, first off, are ghosts and spirits the same thing, or are they different, according to you?
I think they're the same thing. I think
Okay.
they're just different words for the same kind of energy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll ask Vywamus that also. But is there anything specific that you want to share before you start?
No, I think we're ready to go. I think I just
All
need
right.
to get out of the way.
Okay.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Greetings. We are the one called Vywamus. We are an inner guardian of the earth, and it is a great honor to share this energy and this time with you. How may we be of assistance?
Thank you, Vywamus, and thank you for being here with me again today. I so appreciate it. So today we want to talk about spirits and ghosts. And the first question I'll ask of you is, are spirits and ghosts the same thing, or are they two different things?
They are basically the same verbiage for what we would call the same aspect. Spirits do not have to be ghosts, but one could say that ghosts are definitely spirits. In other words, a spirit may not be the leftover energy, so to speak, of an incarnated physical being. A spirit can simply be light. It can be made of anything for that matter. But ghosts are typically those who have been living in a particular dimension or reality and choose to remain after they have disconnected the cord, so to speak, between their soul and their physical body. So even though they are used interchangeably as a term, so to speak, there is indeed some difference between them.
Are there a lot of spirits that remain on the earth plane?
There are a tremendous number of spirits on the earth plane. There are not quite as many ghosts as there are spirits. And that would make sense if you think back to the description we just gave a moment ago. In other words, there are devas, fairies, elementals. There are all kinds of spirits on the planet, but they are not necessarily related to the leftover energy of a spirit, or a being rather, that is or has been physical.
Okay. And why do spirits remain on the earth plane? Why do spirits and ghosts remain?
Ghosts remain for a number of reasons. Spirits are present for different reasons. Ghosts are present for a number of reasons. And imagine for a moment that there is a belief system that you are adhering to. And that belief system says you should do so and you haven't done so and so. And then there's a kind of consequence that is tied to what you haven't done. And then you begin to believe that when you pass into the next world, you are going to be judged. And in that judgment, you are going to be found to be successful or to be a failure. And if you are failing in whatever your task is, you are going to suffer some serious consequence. In that case, fear becomes the motivator, and all of a sudden, you do not desire to move on. You desire to remain where you are. There are other circumstances as well. Let's imagine, for the sake of argument, that someone whom you love very dearly has passed out of this world into the next, and you never had a chance to say goodbye. And so, when you pass out of this world, you remain in this environment thinking that perhaps you will encounter them again. And that is, of course, not true, but it is one of the reasons that ghosts remain in this realm. Another aspect is guilt. Let's imagine that they feel responsible for something that took place, and they do not know how to repair that guilt, how to change that, or how to be, what's the word? You use the word penance at times. Mm-hmm. So they want to create some sort of redemption, and they feel like they can only do it in this realm. And that if they don't do it in this realm, they are going to be judged, just as we talked about a moment ago.
So are spirits ever really trapped on the earth plane, or is it that they just feel they're trapped on the earth plane?
They believe they are trapped, but in truth, they are always welcome to cross over to the other side. And there are many who are inviting them to do so. That is part of what the angelic realm is all about. In other words, creating the guidance necessary for that crossing over process to take place.
Okay. Now, as far as ghosts go, spirits, ghosts, are there any true, I guess the word's benevolent ghosts that are truly evil, that are evil beings that are here to harm us or want to do harm?
There are those who are so steeped in their anger that they are looking for a form of venting that anger. In other words, some way to express it. And in fact, they are the ones that your movie and media industry take great advantage of in creating the horror films that many of you are familiar with. And it is important to understand that their anger is the part that must be dealt with in order to cross them over to the other side. And that is the reason why entities such as the one called Gregory or Ashid, whom we speak through, have been created as messengers, if you will, to allow that energy to be expressed in a safe way so that it can then be released from the planet, allowing the planet to rise in vibrational frequency. That anger, just as it can in human beings, is a rather low frequency. Compare that to what you call joy or euphoria or happiness. That energy is a much higher frequency than the frequency of anger and revenge and vengeance. And so, just as it is with the living, so is it with those who are ghosts, so to speak.
Okay, so they're just like a human who is now dead, and if the human was angry, they're now maybe an angry ghost. But I'm curious to know if they're truly evil beings, like, demons and beings that we see, like you said, in movies and stuff. Is that all fabricated, or is that real?
The energy of that is not fabricated. The feeling that you get when you're around a spirit who's incredibly angry, and that would be a ghost, that particular spirit or that energy is easily felt as malevolent or bad or evil. Those are all judgments, and we do our best not to judge. We believe that there is simply what is, rather than whether or not one must judge it. It's all a creation of the Creator, and it all vibrates at a certain frequency. And therefore, if that frequency is one of anger, and therefore a very low frequency, one can begin to believe that a particular place, any particular place that is filled with that sort of energy, for whatever reason, can in fact seem very evil, and eventually fewer and fewer people will desire to be in that space. Oftentimes it becomes abandoned, or it becomes a place with what you call a reputation. Cemeteries, abandoned buildings, warehouses, things of that nature that are no longer considered particularly pleasant to be in. That is the kind of environment that is created oftentimes by that anger.
Yeah, places that are considered here on our earth plane as extremely haunted, where you hear stories of scary and terrible things happening and people feeling that they've been attacked by ghosts or spirits. I've heard stories of that.
And oftentimes, those are places where some sort of tragic or deadly or what you might call catastrophic, that is the word you use. Some catastrophic event has occurred, a tremendous number of deaths, as in the gassings that took place during the Holocaust. Hundreds and thousands of people have gone to those places to try to clear them. And it is very difficult to clear because there was so much suffering and pain that took place. And separation. When you think about the separation of families, and you think about someone who is executed, sentenced to death, and there's nothing anyone can do about it, that is a feeling of hopelessness and helplessness and great separation. And it is permanent, seemingly. In other words, it seems as though you will never see that family member again. And that creates a tremendous amount of isolation, disorientation, and the anger that we spoke of.
Yeah. So in a situation for that, where maybe the spirit or ghost feels trapped or stuck, are they suffering then when they're here on Earth, if they are feeling that and stuck?
They believe they are suffering, and they believe that there is nothing they can do about it. That hopeless, helpless feeling is very much a part of their makeup, so to speak, their consciousness or lack thereof, however you choose to see it, yes.
So then what can be done to encourage them to move into the light? Because it makes me sad to think that in life they suffered so terribly, and then in death they're still suffering by feeling stuck and feeling isolated. It makes me sad to think that.
Oftentimes in the conversation between the man Ashid and the one he calls his sister, whose name is Leanne, in that conversation there is what you might call first a listening. In other words, questions as to why they have remained. And then there is a period of convincing the entity that it is not going to be judged on the other side, but rather it is going to be welcomed. And that welcoming is what it desires. But the biggest and the most important aspect is that of expression. In other words, a ghost on the other side has no way to make its voice heard unless it spends a tremendous amount of energy figuring out how to manipulate the material world. And that can be done. Furniture can be moved, doors can be opened and closed, electricity can be turned on and turned off, but it requires an incredible amount of energy on the part of that entity. Why waste that energy on this form of expression when there are so many other beautiful aspects that can be focused upon? That is, of course, the sadness in the entire process.
Mm-hmm. Do some of these ghosts or spirits not realize that they're dead? I've heard that also.
Absolutely. They believe that they are still alive, but they are feeling helpless because they cannot make choices, they cannot manipulate the matter around them, and they do not have a body, so to speak, that they can feel the various kinds of sensations that you who are physical can feel. So the answer to your question is yes, especially in the case where one takes one's own life. That is very true in those cases. It is also true in the case of a life that has ended by accident, so to speak. In other words, it's instantaneous. It was not necessarily seen or felt as though that were about to take place.
But it wouldn't dawn on them to say if they can't do things with their physical body or communicate with others, maybe I'm dead. Like it wouldn't dawn on. Like I think it would dawn on me. Like maybe I'm dead. I don't know.
Perhaps. But the thing to look at is this. The human being can be incredibly stubborn. And we mean no judgment by that. In other words, when one becomes so set in one's belief system, it can take something extraordinary to allow that belief system to change.
That is fascinating. Okay, we're going to take our second break here. So Vywamus, please stay with us for just a few minutes and we'll be back and I have some more questions. Stay tuned.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Imagine yourself being transported to India, to the banks of the Ganga and an ashram in Rishikesh. Visualize that you are welcome to satsang with an American sannyasi who shares the wisdom of her guru. Your visualization has manifested. Join Sattvi Bhagawati Saraswati for inspiration and transformation every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
Hi, I'm Melisa Caprio from Postcards to the Universe, creating the life you crave. Do you believe in magic? What if I told you all you had to do was get a little creative and work a dream spell to bring anything you can imagine into your life? Well, guess what? I've got the spell for you. Postcards to the Universe, a global movement for manifestation, is a casting magical tool for you to use whenever you want. How does living in passion sound to you? Join me in my movement where you get to create in the magical playground. Let's think outside the box and do some playful conjuring. By casting out our desires with a manifesting postcard, we explore our hearts and allow the alchemy of our dreams to appear. And don't forget to tune in each week here on OMTimes Radio with my show, Postcards to the Universe, creating the life you crave at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I share tips on creativity, abundance, and prosperity, and you will be introduced to the coolest guests, trailblazers, mystics, and creatives who enrich our lives.
Coping 19, brought to you by CDC and the Ad Council.
If you're feeling increasingly lonely right now, you're not alone. It's totally normal. Even though we may not be able to get together in person, connecting virtually with friends and family still gives you a chance to interact with people and may help raise your spirits. Join a virtual book club, set up group text chats, or online video coffee breaks with coworkers.
Find more self-care and coping tips at coping-19.org.
Welcome back. So right now I have Vywamus, Guardian of the Earth, on, who's being channeled by Gregory Possman. So Vywamus, my question about spirits and ghosts is, what effect are they here on the earth for us? Like, what is their purpose? Are some of them here to help us, to assist us, to guide us? I'm always curious about that.
There are those who do indeed protect, those who do indeed show a tremendous amount of concern, and there are those who, on the other hand, create a tremendous amount of fear. And those who create fear, they are the ones that, of course, receive a tremendous amount of attention. And let us give you a quick example. The man was in the place called England, and he had gone into a hotel, and he could feel this spirit, and he wanted to clear it. But the spirit was there because it had been jilted. Are you familiar with the term jilted?
Yes.
In other words, the spirit had expected in a previous lifetime it would be married to a partner. When it showed up for the ceremony to take place, the partner was not there. The man was then confronted, so to speak, by the desk clerk of the hotel, and this picture began to show up in front of him. It turns out that the spirit of the woman who was the desk clerk was the woman who had actually jilted the spirit back in the day in that other lifetime. When the man Ashid said to her, "It's really important that this entity be cleared and taken to the other side, crossed over, so to speak," she said, "No." And he said, "Why not?" She said, "Well, he sits on the sink while I'm putting my makeup on in the morning, and he seems very comforting to me." At that point, the man Ashid realized he was not going to get permission to cross the spirit over, and therefore he left. In other words, there was no more point in walking around the halls of this particular place, and so in the process, nothing takes place. And there are those who want those spirits to remain. They find them to be company, if you will. And perhaps it's just as much a sense of awe as it is comfort. In other words, it can be particularly, what would you call it? What is the word you would use? It can be different. In other words, there are those places who publicize themselves as being haunted, and actually financial gain comes as a result. And that is, in a way, perfect, but in another way, it is perhaps somewhat strange to us, because we are constantly interested in raising the vibrational frequency of the planet. And in so doing, crossing over these spirits is very important to us.
Can spirits who have crossed over come back and visit as they want to? You know, like they can say, I'm just going to come pop in for a visit and then go back home to wherever their spirit is supposed to be?
Imagine the universe as an incredibly efficient place. It may not seem that way to human beings, but to us it is a very efficient place. So, if you think about moving forward on a journey, on a train or a plane or an automobile, any of those things, a bicycle, what would be the point in suddenly turning around and heading back in the direction you came from, unless there was some extremely important reason to do so? And if the universe is a very efficient place, then the chances of needing to do that are slim to none, as you would say. So the answer is, unless it were extraordinary, very, very extraordinary circumstances, there would be no impetus, no desire, no motivation to return, because it would be like going back instead of moving forward and learning. We cannot say that absolutely they cannot do that. There may be that rare instance where it can happen, and it happens very briefly, but the likelihood of it is extremely, extremely rare.
Okay. So if we want to connect with our loved ones who are in the spirit world, this is a follow-up to that question. Is that still possible if they've crossed over into the light? Can they hear us as we talk to them?
They are a part of you. And this is a very difficult concept for a human being with a body to grasp. But the answer to your question is, they are just as much a part of you as they were when they were alive. All of the memory, all of the energy, all of the connection, all of the contact, it is still within you. And given that everything in the universe is connected, the answer is, you can communicate with their spirit or their soul, whatever word you want to give it, in the moment, in this moment. But you see, because of your senses, your sight, your sound, your touch, your smell, all of that, you want some sort of proof that it is taking place. You want it to happen in a material or physical way. And so, imagine at night, before you go to sleep, you are simply sending a very positive message to the energy of your mother or father or great-grandparent or whomever it might be. They receive that message. They receive that energy. And it's not as though they have to prove that they have received it. It just takes place. It happens. It's like connecting with your own guides and teachers. Okay. You want someone like the Christ to appear in front of you. You want to see an angel. You want to see an extraterrestrial land its ship and ask you if you'd like to take a ride.
Yes.
But how often does it actually happen? It doesn't happen that often. It does happen, but it's not often. And why would one not experience that? Because part of the reason for being on the earth is to learn to have faith in yourself, to have faith in your intuition and your own soul. And one way to create that faith is to believe where there is no evidence.
Yes, that's true. But do they try to communicate with us? I hear stories all the time of loved ones who have passed on, and people pray to their loved ones and talk to them, and they feel that the person who's passed on has somehow sent them a sign, or something that gives them comfort that there is still that connection, like you said. Even though they're not in physical form, we're still connected. And, as humans, we do want evidence in physicality. So are they communicating back with us?
Many times they are, yes. And they communicate for one reason. They are worried about your well-being, and you are worried about theirs. Frequently, people ask, how is so-and-so doing on the other side? Someone who has passed on, gone through what you might call that rebirth, if you will. But the truth of the matter is, they are in splendid shape. They are doing very, very well.
Right.
And what is holding them back is the belief on this side that they aren't. And so what they want is they want you to heal. They want those who survive them to heal and recognize that they are doing just fine. And when that happens, when that takes place, it is what you might call incredibly healing, and it creates freedom for them to move on. They don't have to worry about you any longer. They know that you are doing just fine.
And if they do communicate with us to let us, because they're worried about how we're doing, how usually do they do that? What does that look like?
It can look like dreams. It can look like messages that are given. It can be a feeling. It can be a thought. It can be something that is familiar. We are reminded of one time when the man Ashid was sitting at his computer and smoke began coming out of his mouth. And he saw it, as did his wife who was sitting in the office with him. And then she said, interesting, because the one who had owned the home previously to them, well, it was actually quite a ways back, the one who had built the home, he smoked cigars. And he was simply affirming that he was pleased with the work that they had done on the home. So it was a very positive sign. But it was one of the strangest things the man Ashid had ever experienced. He has never smoked in his life.
I imagine.
And the last thing he would think of doing is smoking a cigar.
So why are some people like Gregory able to feel them and others are not?
That is called sensitivity, and part of it has to do with the belief system. If you don't believe in ghosts, you're never going to see one, because you are constantly affirming your belief. And heaven forbid you did see one, then you would be wrong. And the last thing most human beings want to be is wrong. On the other hand, if you believe in ghosts, if you believe in reincarnation, if you believe on what some might call the fringe, you are much more likely to have an experience of it.
Some people can channel, like Gregory channels you, channel spirits who have passed on and give messages. I don't know if the word is common. I guess it's common. Can a lot of people do that? Channel loved ones who have passed on?
Quite a few more people than admit it. There is also an aspect of insanity on your planet, and there is an aspect of acceptance. And so there are a great many people who are capable of those particular skills, but they're very private about it. They do not make it public. And we think back to the time when the man Ashid published his book, a book he doesn't talk about very much, but he was afraid that everyone would think he were crazy. So it took a fair amount of courage. As you are well aware, it takes a fair amount of courage to publish a book because you are waiting to be judged. And there is strength in numbers on your planet, and so there are many who do not believe in any of this, and they poo-poo it, as you say. They're very, very skeptical. However, as soon as they have a personal experience of it, do they run out and tell all of their family and their neighbors what happened? Of course not. They say nothing. And then maybe a year or 6 years or 10 years later, someone brings up something And all of a sudden, they are courageous enough to say, I had an experience just like that.
Wow. Well, thank you, Vywamus. We're almost out of time. Is there anything you want us to know before you go and give Gregory back his body about spirits and ghosts that we should know?
We want you to understand one thing that's very important. There is nothing out there that is more powerful than each of you. And even though you may have a frightening experience, wrap yourself in white light and allow yourself to understand that you are divine. And in the process, all of your fear will dissipate. That is the final message we would leave you with. We are grateful for this time together. We are the one called Vywamus, inner guardian of the earth. So be it.
Thank you. That was great. Wow.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. That was good stuff. As always.
Better than bad stuff.
Better than bad stuff. Thanks, Gregory, for being here with me. And thank you, Vywamus. And check out Gregory and his work at his website, gregorypossman.com. Thank you for listening to Postcards to the Universe with Melisa, creating the life you crave, and wishing everyone a wonderful week filled with joy, abundance, and love. Happy holidays, everyone.